Ladies and gentlemen, of all the truths that shake the soul awake, there is none so powerful as this. God is about to bless you beyond anything your imagination has ever dared to picture. I do not say this lightly. I do not say this to entertain you. I say this because the Spirit of God has stirred this word deep within my heart. You have been walking with burdens. You have been pressing through storms. You have been carrying weights that no one else could see. And you have wondered if the heavens have gone silent. But I declare to you today, God has not forgotten you. And He is preparing to pour out a blessing so vast, so staggering, so far beyond your calculation that it will silence your doubts and bring you to your knees in awe. For too long you have measured your future by the failures of your past. But God is not confined by your history. He is not limited by what people said about you. He is not restrained by the walls others built around you. When God decides to bless you, no force on earth and no scheme of man can stop it. You may have been told that you are too late, too broken, too ordinary. But the voice of God speaks louder than the voices of doubt. And God is saying to you now, lift your eyes higher because I am about to do a new thing in your life. I want you to hear this. In the very core of your being, you are standing on the edge of a divine shift. What has been barren will bear fruit. What has been locked will open. What has been delayed will accelerate. The blessing of God is not a small token, not a drop in the bucket, but an overflowing river that will break through every dry and thirsty place in your life. And when it comes, it will not come in proportion to what you think you deserve. It will come in proportion to the greatness of God Himself. That is why it will overwhelm your imagination. Because the human mind cannot fully grasp the measureless abundance of God. Do not look at your present condition and think that it limits what God can do. God has always specialized in taking the least likely person in the least likely place in the least likely situation and turning it into a testimony that shakes the earth. Think of the wilderness that suddenly blooms, the desert that suddenly overflows with streams, the night that suddenly bursts into dawn. That is what God is about to do for you. Your story is not over. The page you are living on right now is not the last chapter. God is still writing, and the next line of your story carries a blessing you cannot contain. Some of you have prayed for years and heard no answer. You have cried into the silence and thought God had passed you by. But silence is not absence and waiting is not denial. God has been working in ways unseen, aligning circumstances, moving people, preparing opportunities so that at the appointed time, His perfect time, the blessing would break forth. You see, if it had come when you wanted it, you would not have been ready to hold it. If it had come earlier, it might have crushed you. But now, after all the pain, after all the growth, after all the tears, you are standing ready, and the blessing is about to be released. And let me tell you, when God blesses you, it will not be small. It will not be ordinary. It will not be explainable by logic or reason. It will be so extraordinary that those who doubted you will not be able to deny the hand of God upon you. They may not understand you, but they will not be able to ignore what God has done. Your blessing will be so visible, so undeniable, that it will draw eyes not to you, but to the greatness of the God you serve. This is why you cannot give up. This is why you cannot let discouragement take root in your heart. God is about to turn the very place of your struggle into the platform of your testimony. The very thing that looked like it would destroy you is about to showcase the power of God. Your enemies may have rejoiced over your setbacks, but they will have to watch as God sets a table before you in the presence of your opposition. They will not understand how you made it, but you will know it was God and God alone. Listen to me, to not limit God by your own imagination. Your imagination is too small for what God intends to do. You have asked for enough to survive, but God is preparing more than enough to overflow. You have asked for the door to open, but God is preparing to expand your territory. You have asked for healing in one area, but God is about to bring wholeness in every area. What you thought was a prayer for survival will become a testimony of abundance. And hear this, the blessing that is coming is not just for you. God blesses you so that you can be a blessing. The overflow is not meant to stop with you. It is meant to spread through you, your family, your community, the people who cross your path. They will be touched by the abundance God pours into your life. When you walk in the blessing of God, you become a living reminder to others that He is faithful. No, Your life becomes a message that says, if God did it for me, He can do it for you. I know some of you are thinking, but I have made too many mistakes. I have failed too often. I am unworthy. Let me tell you something. God's blessing is not about your worthiness, it is about His greatness. If blessing was only for the perfect, none of us would qualify. But God delights in taking imperfect people and placing His perfect blessing upon them. That is how He proves it is not by our strength, but by His mercy. The world may measure you by your past, but God measures you by your potential. The world may see your scars, but God sees your future. And what God is about to do will eclipse everything behind you. You may have lost years, but God can restore in a moment what was stolen over a lifetime. You may have been overlooked, but when God blesses you, He will lift you so high that no one can ignore what He has done. I want you to understand the magnitude of what I am telling you. God is about to bless you beyond your imagination. That means your biggest dream is too small. Your boldest vision is too limited. The picture you have painted of your future is only a fraction of what God intends. You are thinking survival, but God is thinking overflow. You are thinking breakthrough, but God is thinking transformation. You are thinking about the next step, but God is about to give you a leap. This is why you must prepare your heart, because the blessing that is coming will not just change your circumstances, it will change you. It will stretch your faith. It will enlarge your vision. It will humble your pride. It will deepen your gratitude. And it will remind you every single day that you serve a God who cannot be measured, a God who cannot be contained, a God whose goodness knows no end. You may be standing today in a valley, but the mountain of blessing is already rising before you. You may feel surrounded by darkness, but the dawn is closer than you think. You may feel forgotten, but heaven has not forgotten your name. And when the blessing comes, you will say it was worth every tear. It was worth every night of waiting. It was worth every season of silence, because you will see that God was not withholding from you. He was preparing something greater than you ever imagined. When God decides to move in your life, He does it with a precision that leaves no room for coincidence. What you once thought was a detour, what you once assumed was a mistake, what you once cried over as a loss, those very things become the stepping stones toward the blessing He has prepared for you. God never wastes a season. Every pain you endured, every door that was shut, every prayer that seemed unanswered has been woven into a greater design. It is meant to show you that even when the odds were stacked against you, the power of God is greater still. That is why when the blessing comes, it will not just satisfy your need, it will awaken your faith. It will anchor you deeper in trust, because you will know that if God can do this, then nothing is impossible for Him. Lift your faith higher. Refuse to shrink your prayers to the size of your circumstances. Refuse to limit your expectations to the level of your resources. God is bigger than your bank account. God is greater than the doctor's report. God is stronger than the walls that surround you. And God is about to move in such a way that your testimony will silence the doubts of others and silence the doubts within yourself. Even now, the blessing is closer than you think. The atmosphere of your life is shifting. Doors that look sealed are about to open. Paths that look blocked are about to clear. People who turn their backs are about to watch as God elevates you in ways they cannot comprehend. The blessing is not a far-off dream. It is a reality that is about to break through. And when it does, it will carry you further than you imagined and establish you in places you never thought you would stand. I tell you this not to stir your emotions, but to awaken your spirit. God is not finished with you. He is only beginning. The depth of what He intends to do in your life is far greater than what you have seen so far. You may have tasted small victories, but greater victories are on their way. You may have glimpsed small breakthroughs, but larger breakthroughs are being prepared. You may have carried small blessings, but an abundance is about to be poured into your hands. Now is the time to stand with unwavering faith. Do not look to the left or the right. Do not compare your journey to the journey of another. God's blessing for you is tailored, unique, crafted with divine precision. What He is about to give you will fit you perfectly, and no one else can take it from you. What He has prepared for you has your name upon it, and nothing and no one can claim what God has already destined to place in your life. When God chooses to bless you, He He does not consult your past, and he does not check the opinions of people around you. He acts according to his will, his wisdom, and his power. That is why when his blessing arrives, it confounds human logic. You may not have the qualifications others value. You may not have the connections others rely on. You may not even have the strength you once thought you needed. But when God steps in, his favor outruns every deficiency. His blessing is not confined to human systems. It operates on the authority of his command. And when he commands abundance, nothing in this world can cancel it. Think about the depth of God's mercy. He does not bless you because you have done everything right, but because his goodness is limitless. He does not elevate you because you have never fallen, but because his power is greater than your fall. That is why his blessing is so astounding. It does not measure your worth by human standards. It reveals his greatness in ways that lift you above what you thought possible. The very areas where you feel disqualified are often the areas he chooses to display his might. Does this so that when you stand in the blessing, you will know it was not by your hand, but by his. There are moments in life when it seems as though everything is standing against you. People may resist you. Circumstances may discourage you. Time itself may seem to be running out. Yet it is in those very moments that God often chooses to reveal his blessing most clearly. When you are at the end of yourself, you discover the beginning of his abundance. When all other doors have closed, he shows you that his hand can open what no one else can. When the night feels longest, his light proves brightest. Do not be surprised if your darkest hour becomes the stage for your greatest blessing. Do not despise the process God has allowed you to walk through. Some blessings require preparation that cannot be rushed. A vessel must be shaped before it can be filled. A foundation must be laid before a building can rise. The delay you have experienced is not wasted time. It has been God preparing you for what is coming. He has been stretching your faith, strengthening your resolve, refining your character so that when the blessing arrives, you are not only ready to receive it, but strong enough to sustain it. Without that preparation, the blessing could slip through your hands. With it, you will carry it with grace and wisdom. There are blessings that come suddenly, and there are blessings that unfold gradually. Some arrive like a flood sweeping through every part of your life at once. Others come like the dawn, slowly but steadily breaking through the night until the light fully shines. Do not be discouraged if your blessing begins as a seed rather than a harvest. A seed may look small, but within it lies an entire forest. The beginnings may be humble, but the outcome will be great because God is the one who multiplies what seems insignificant into something extraordinary. I want you to recognize this truth. The blessing of God is not limited to material gain. Yes, he can prosper your resources. Yes, he can open doors of opportunity. Yes, he can provide beyond measure. But his blessing is also peace in the midst of storms, clarity in the face of confusion, strength in seasons of weakness, and joy that cannot be stolen by circumstances. When God blesses you, it is not only about what he places in your hand, but what he plants in your heart. And often the inner blessing is what sustains you long after the outer blessing has been given. Many of you are waiting for something specific, for provision, for healing, for restoration, for breakthrough. But what if I told you that God's blessing will not only meet the need you can name, but exceed it with blessings you have not yet imagined? You have prayed for doors to open, but he is preparing entire gates to swing wide. You have asked for restoration of one thing, but he is planning restoration of many things. You have hoped for a small shift, but he is preparing a transformation that will rewrite your entire story. God always moves beyond the boundary of your expectation because his nature is abundance, not limitation. Let me speak to your spirit. Do not settle for the bare minimum. Do not reduce your prayers to what feels safe. Dare to believe that God can move beyond the confines of your imagination. He is not intimidated by the size of your request. He is not restrained by the magnitude of your need. He delights in showing his strength in the very places where you feel weakest. And when you dare to believe him for more, you are not being presumptuous. You are simply aligning your faith with his greatness. You must understand that the blessing God is preparing for you will not only change your circumstances, but it will also shift the way you see him. It will deepen your awe, enlarge your gratitude, and anchor your trust. You will find yourself saying, I never knew he could move in this way. I never realized he cared so deeply for the details of my life. I never understood the extent of his generosity. That is what happens when God blesses beyond imagination. He expands your understanding of who he is. Even now, some of you are on the verge of walking into a blessing that will redefine your life. The signs may be subtle. A conversation that seems ordinary, a connection that seems small, a shift in your spirit that you cannot explain. Do not dismiss these signs, for they are often the beginnings of God's unfolding plan. Great rivers begin as small streams. Mighty trees begin as tiny seeds. Do not underestimate the small signals of God's movement, for they may be the early signs of the blessing about to overflow. Prepare yourself. Blessings demand room to flow. You cannot cling to the old and expect to fully embrace the new. You cannot hold on to fear and still carry faith. You cannot live with a closed hand and expect God to fill it. Open your heart, release what no longer serves your future, and make space for what God is about to bring. He cannot pour new oil into vessels that are already full of yesterday's residue. But when you present yourself empty, expectant, and willing, His blessing will fill you to overflowing. The time is near when you will stand as living proof that God does not abandon His own. The very people who question your faith will witness the evidence of His favor in your life. The very voices that told you it would never happen will be silenced by the reality of what God has done. And you will stand not in pride but in humility, saying, "This is the work of God, and it is marvelous in my eyes." When God prepares to bless you, He begins by shifting the ground beneath your feet. You may notice disruptions, changes you did not expect, people leaving, doors closing, and seasons ending. What's it say? Do not mistake these movements as signs of abandonment. They are the clearing of the soil, the uprooting of what no longer belongs, the pruning of branches so that fruit can grow. God knows what cannot accompany you into the next season, and He will not allow what is temporary to hinder what is eternal. Every removal is a preparation for the abundance He is about to release. You see, the blessing of God is not just about what comes into your life. It is also about what leaves your life. Sometimes the greatest blessings are not in the things you gain, but in the burdens He lifts, the chains He breaks, the toxic ties He severs. God's blessing is freedom as much as it is increase. It is peace as much as it is provision. It is clarity as much as it is opportunity. So when He begins to strip away, do not resist it, because the hand that removes is the same hand that restores. God blesses in ways that often seem hidden at first. What looks like a delay may be protection. What feels like a setback may be positioning. What appears to be lost may be the seed of a greater harvest. He cannot judge the blessing of God by the first chapter of its unfolding. You must trust the author of your story, for He sees the ending before the beginning. He knows how every detail, every moment, every trial, and every triumph will weave together into a blessing so complete that you will one day stand in awe of how perfectly it was planned. Do not underestimate the power of expectancy. When you live the conviction that God is about to bless you beyond imagination, your heart shifts. You stop speaking words of defeat and begin declaring words of faith. You stop walking with your head bowed down and begin lifting your eyes toward the horizon. Expectancy is the soil where blessings grow. God responds to faith that believes not only in His ability but also in His willingness to act. The expectation that He will move prepares the vessel for the abundance He is preparing to pour. There is a reason why your trials have felt heavier than others, why your waiting has felt longer, why your battle has been fiercer. It is because the blessing assigned to your life is greater than you realize. The weight of the struggle is often in proportion to the weight of the blessing. And if you have been carrying heavy burdens, it is only because God is preparing you to carry heavy blessings. Do not despise the weight. It is proof that something mighty is on its way. God is not only preparing to bless you, He is preparing to elevate you. His blessing is not designed to keep you in the same place, but to lift you into a higher dimension of living. What He is bringing will require you to see differently, to think differently, to live differently. That is why the blessing will not just change your external situation. It will transform your internal vision. He will enlarge your perspective so that you no longer think in terms of scarcity, but in terms of abundance. You will no longer look at obstacles as barriers, but as stepping stones. You will no longer measure life by what you lack, but by the limitless provision of God. Consider this. When God blesses, it is not just for the moment. It is generational. The blessing He is about to pour into your life has the power to outlive you, to flow into your children, to echo into your lineage, to transform your family's story. What He is about to give you will break cycles of lack, cycles of struggle, cycles of defeat, and establish new cycles of abundance, peace, and faith. You are not just being blessed for yourself. You are being blessed to shift the destiny of those who come after you. And hear me clearly. This blessing will not come by accident. It is intentional. God has written your name upon it. He has crafted it specifically for you. It is not a hand-me-down blessing, not a recycled gift, but something tailor-made, precise, and purposeful. What He has for you will fit your life in such a way that no one else can take it and no one else can walk in it. This is why comparison is futile. What God has designed for you is yours, and it cannot be stolen. You must also understand that when God blesses beyond imagination, it is not only to bring you joy, but also to display His glory. When your life becomes a living testimony, everything about you begins to speak a language that words alone cannot capture. It's no longer just about what you say. It's about the undeniable transformation that radiates from within you. The very people who doubted you, who whispered behind your back, who thought your dreams were too big or your prayers too impossible, will one day stand in awe as they witness what God has done in your life. They may try to rationalize it, attribute it to luck, hard work, or coincidence, but deep in their hearts, they will know there was something greater at work, a divine power that no human effort could manufacture. This is the beauty of God's hand upon a life. It produces results so remarkable, so unexplainable, that even your critics are left with nothing but silence or reluctant admiration. But here's the key. Before this happens outwardly, something has to shift inwardly. You must align your spirit with expectancy. Too often people pray small prayers while secretly doubting that God will come through. They ask but don't really expect. They hope but don't fully believe. And yet the power of God flows where faith creates an open door. When you begin to expect not in arrogance but in confidence that God will move, you posture your heart to receive what He has already prepared. Expectancy isn't passive. It's active faith. It wakes up each morning saying that today could be the day. It looks at closed doors and believes they can open. It faces opposition and trusts that God can turn it into opportunity. Think about it. Every testimony in Scripture began with someone daring to expect God to be who He said He was. Abraham expected a child even when his body was as good as dead. David expected victory against Goliath when everyone else expected defeat. Esther expected favor when approaching the king at the risk of her life. And every single time, the power of God showed up in ways that human logic couldn't explain. That same power is at work today. When you align your spirit with expectancy, you're saying, Lord, I may not know how, but I trust You will. It's a declaration that you believe His promises over your circumstances, His power over your limitations, His timing over your impatience. And as you stand in faith, your life begins to transform in ways that no one can deny. Soon the doubters will witness blessings they can't explain. The critics will see doors open that no man could shut. The very people who once dismissed you will have to admit that something greater than human strength was at work.